What's up guys, this is Sanju from Build to Made, and today I'm back with a brand new project.
Just in time for the holidays. We're on a mission to make an extra long outdoor dining table. We're talking 4x4 pine, 2x4s, and 2x6s. But here's the kicker, I'm not just making any old table. No, I've decided to challenge myself and cut those table legs in a way that will distract you from my turkey legs.
Why is the big question? I'm actually a fan of the A-style table legs. I'm also a fan of the A-team.
You could drop some serious cash on a dining table, but customization, that's where the magic happens. You get a table on a budget that fits your desired space. I'm here to prove to you that you can have some style without draining your wallet. On second thought, maybe some of your time if time is money. Look, I'm gonna keep things real. Speaking from this experience, your first version will not be flawless, which is why I'm taking this table apart. You'll forget to glue your heavy pine boards, but you'll find comfort in knowing that your table frame is lightweight, and you'll notice ways to improve joinery. So let's start at the beginning, how I should have built this table. Now when it comes to materials, we're rolling with pine. It's budget friendly and readily available. Check the description below for a full shopping list. As I get better at this DIY stuff, I'm gonna tackle projects with wood that might have some better street cred down the road. We're gonna start by cutting our 4x4 posts to a length of 28 inches for a total of 4 legs. And I'm using Ryobi's 18-volt 10-inch sliding compound miter saw. Full disclosure, I own a lot of Ryobi tools because of accessible price points. Some of them have been gifted while several have been purchased. I always forget to add the roller so that my cut piece is balanced and doesn't cave in. This can prevent kickback and potential injury. Wood grain is so fascinating to me. You can tell that it has been quarter sawn where a log of timber has been cut into quarters down the middle. To build A-style table legs, we need to cut the legs at an angle of 5 degrees. A rafter square is a simple, powerful tool, especially if you plan to use a circular saw. As long as you have a straight 90-degree edge, you can use the pivot to locate the 5-degree reference point along the long side. The exposed timber will be trimmed off. Now if you have a miter saw, you could skip a step and set the saw to your desired angle. Cut both sides of the leg in parallel and repeat for all 4 legs. It goes without saying, try to follow standard practices and safety guidelines when handling power tools. I'm still learning and make the occasional mistake. One day I hope to build a proper miter station, but this cart that I built in my previous YouTube video works for now. Check it out when you get a chance. The very first table I built used 2x4s bolted onto the 4x4. This time around I wanted to try a stronger lap joint that requires cutting and chiseling notches to the width and depth of a 2x4. These notches will be cut 2 inches from the top of the 4x4 and close to the midpoint. If you're a beginner, the depth control of a miter saw will be a game changer. This particular model has 2 pieces, a lever to create the stop, and a screw to set the depth. In addition, we're going to add a 2x4 to the fence to offset our workpiece so that we can cut consistent notches. Without the offset, some wood pieces will remain, and you'll spend a little extra time chiseling out the area. My son had popped in for a bit to help slide in the 2x4s. I didn't anticipate this, but I'm so glad he had a chance to see this in action. I'm a believer that young minds should be stimulated early on, and hopefully seeing this helps to positively shape him, just as watching my dad shape me. By the way, you probably noticed that we've dry fitted the pieces. In my experience, it's always a good idea to perform a fit check and make sure the table will be level. Being a dad, I try to remain goofy. Growing up in Texas, I was always surrounded by tacos. Tacos are great for many occasions: birthday parties, anniversaries, your retirement. Anyway, time to get back to work. With the fit check complete, glue your pieces together. I chose to secure these pieces with lag bolts from the back side, and I used a forcer bit to reduce visibility of the bolt. It will sit flush. A 2x4 was secured at the top with exterior grade screws so that we can have a solid surface to land our tabletop. I will admit this wasn't my preferred method, and if you have suggestions, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. The decision to invest in a thickness planer is an important one. I used it believing that it could straighten out my boards, and with softwoods like pine, the boards will hardly be straight after most of the moisture has left the wood. You can't fight nature, but you could use a thickness planer to trim boards to a consistent thickness throughout their length. I also wasn't fond of the stain that I had used during my first build, so it helped to shave off that first layer. We're ready to join the boards using a combination of glue and pocket holes. And like I said before, the boards are not entirely straight, a tool I plan to consider for my next build as a joiner. I think it would have helped here to straighten the boards further. The exterior grade screws are about 2 inches, and a few areas were clamped up until the glue dried. Have you ever had a duh moment? This moment right here is a pure definition. The glued up board was relatively heavy. I struggled to lift up the piece and place it on the table legs. It even fell down. The path of least resistance would have been to simply flip the legs upside down, drive a few screws, and then flip it over, and drive additional screws. Don't get me wrong, I still struggled, but at least the table legs didn't fail on me.
Way harder than it needed to be, but it's done.
I still wasn't convinced the table wouldn't wobble. Using a previously discussed notch technique, I added a 2x4 at the base spanning the length of the table, this time using a circular saw. You can adjust the depth of the saw by adjusting the base. These notches will be half the width of the 2x4s. sometimes like to use an impact driver as a drill, and although it's not always the intended purpose, the hex bits are super helpful. I truly enjoy the Made in USA bits from Montana brands, along with Power Pro screws. This was totally an afterthought. I had not planned on using my track saw, but I wanted to even out the ends. You can use a standard circular saw with a clamped 2x4 guide. I just happened to glance at this seldomly used track saw in my garage and decided to make use of it. However, I did intend to use my palm router to ease up the edges, but I couldn't locate my wrench to swap out the round over bit. My son accidentally ran to a sharp edge during my first build, so I was determined to make this work by using my orbital sander with 120 grit sandpaper. I also took this opportunity to shave down any raised edges. One investment that could stand the test of time is a hand planer, so that's on my wish list. While this table is relatively stable, I came across additional ways to add bracing using a 2x4 angled from the top to the bottom. It got a little tricky, and I was running out of steam, but I measured out the cuts using a rafter square. And there you have it, guys, an improved version of my outdoor table using 2x4s, 4x4s, and 2x6s. The A-style table legs with bracing offer a balance of functionality and design. A refined tabletop gives a smooth finish. I have plans to protect this in a couple of weeks, and I'm open to suggestions. But until next time, talk to you guys soon.